What we know so far from Sony and Project Amist for future console tech is that under Project Amist, Sony plus AMD are developing next-gen graphics, AI hardware features including neural arrays, radiance cores, and universal compression. Neural arrays is designed for smarter upscaling and improving resolution frame rate by having GPU compute units team up and act like a single AI engine. This could improve things like upscaling so games could look more sharper even with lower GPU load. And radiance cores, a dedicated hardware block for light transport. This means ray tracing and even path tracing, more realistic lighting, shadows or reflections could be done more efficiently. High fidelity graphics without as much strain on the GPU. Other one is universal compression, a system to compress all data going into the GPU, not only textures, reducing memory bandwidth usage. That means the GPU would push more detail, deliver higher frame rates and be more efficient overall. So according to Sony, these technologies currently only exist in simulation, that is in prototypes or conceptual form, but results are quite promising. He expressed excitement about bringing them to a future console in a few years of time. And what that means is that Sony is clearly working on next generation hardware and they see value in adding advanced AI-driven upscaling, efficient real-time ray tracing, path tracing, and better memory data bandwidth handling. All of that points towards a next-gen console, likely PS6 or whatever they name it, that could significantly outperform PS5 in graphics, frame rate, and efficiency. So a few years from today, that is 2025, suggests perhaps 2027 to 2029, depending on how you define few. Building a console isn't just about hardware design, that's prototyping, testing, optimizing, developer tools, manufacturing, supply chain, and so on, all of which takes time. Historically, console generations tend to come out 6 to 8 years apart, though the varieties. For instance, PS4 launched in 2013 and PS5 in 2020, a 7 years of gap. So if Sony keeps a similar cadence, 2027 to 2028 seems plausible. And some recent leaks and speculation point to a possible launch window around late 2027 to early 2028. This aligns with both the few years away hint from Sony and roughly 7-year console generation cadence. If the speculation holds true, it means we might see PS6 announced in the next couple of years with a commercial release maybe around 2027 to 2028. The technologies are still in simulation. There's no guarantee they will become final production-ready features. Many prototypes never make it to consumer hardware, so even if technology works, Sony may choose to delay the console for market, manufacturing, or business strategy reasons. Leaks and rumors are just that, unofficial and sometimes wildly off. Nothing definitive about PS6 final specs or release date is confirmed yet. So while things looks promising, there's no guarantee of when exactly PS6 will launch, or even that all the features Sony mentioned will make the cut. So putting together of Sony's comments, the Project Amist goals, and typical console generation cycles, Sony is working on next-gen hardware for a future console, likely PS6. At launch, PS6 may bring improved upscaling, real-time path tracing, better AI-based graphics, higher frame rates, and more efficient memory data handling, all thanks to Project Amist tech. In simple terms, yes, PS6 is probably a few years away, and by around 2027 to 2028, we could be playing games on something quite more powerful and smarter than PS5. And latest news suggests that October 20, Moore's Law is dead. Reports the console will begin production in early 2027, and Sony will look to launch in late 2027. October 9, Sony and AMD have begun openly discussing what's coming from their collaboration, which will likely come to PS6. September 12, once again, Moore's Law is dead has a bombshell of leaks, this time with all the PS6 specs. September 8, insider gaming sources state that the PS6 will launch with a detachable disk drive. September 2, Kepler L2 comments that the next Xbox console could cost twice as much as the PS6. August 28, Moore's Law is dead leaks all the specs of the rumored PS6 handheld, plus gives a new price estimate for the PS6. August 22, Cloud Chamber delayed BioShock 4 out of its late 2026, early 2027 release window, suggesting it could be a PS6 title. The PS6 could realistically launch in 2028. If this was one person we trust the most to know when the PS6 could be expected to release, it is architect that Mark Cerny. Last year he announced a major partnership with AMD for Project Amist, which would help improve upscaling on the PS5 Pro that is expected in 2026. Later on, in a new Tom Guides article, Sony comments on AMD's progress in designing the next generation of GPU hardware. While the new tech could be ready as early as next year, Sony stated that what I am trying to do is prepare for the next generation of consoles, so my time frame is multi-year here. While not specific, the term multi-year does help reinforce 2028 as a safe bet for the PS6. So Microsoft has also partnered with AMD, but Sony's collaboration was discussed more openly by Sony and AMD Senior Vice President Jack in a technical talk. In terms of what could come from the partnership, that there are three parts. Neural arrays will work to link compute units to more efficiently leverage AI upscaling, dedicated innovations that bring cinematic rendering to an entirely new level. Other one is Radiance Core, are dedicated hardware for lighting effects in games similar to how Nvidia uses RT cores for ray tracing. And AMD is looking to catch up and Sony will seemingly benefit with PS6. Finally, universal compression could be an answer to Nvidia's neural texture compression, potentially improving the efficiency of streaming compressed data to the GPU memory, as we have already talked about it, which can lower power demands and potentially improving frame rates. So Moore's Law is dead, who you will see pops up a few times on this very page thanks to a decent track record with hardware leaks. Reported in October 2025 that Sony will begin manufacturing the PS6 in early 2027 with the intention that it launches late in the same year. A 7-year console generation would match up with the PS4 life cycle, which ran from 2013 to 2020 when the PS5 launched. So earlier estimates had the PlayStation 6 pegged at a 2027 to 2028 timeframe, but one rumor detail from an insider gaming report could indicate a 2027 release. Take this with a bigger grain of salt, as insider gaming track record for leaks is shaky at best, but it reports that a cancelled unannounced Blade Runner game was targeting a September 2027 release on both current and Gen 10 platforms. The implication is that the PS6 would be out at that time, but we have a very hard time believing that to be true. And perhaps the biggest clue as to when a PS6 could come out, or at least may have been planned to at one point, this information comes from official Microsoft court document as part of the Activision Blizzard acquisition. By the time SIE launched the next generation of its PlayStation console, which is likely to occur around redacted, it would have lost access to Call of Duty. The date is redacted here, but have connected the dots between this and deal Microsoft offered Sony to keep Activision Blizzard games on PlayStation consoles until 2027. That would suggest that at the earliest Microsoft didn't believe a new PlayStation would come before 2027. So it looks like at past generations, the time frame falls in line with the lifespans of past generations. The PlayStation 4 had 7 years before the PS5 came out, and the PlayStation 3 was also around for 7 years before its successor showed up. So for now, 2027, but anything for late 2027 onward feels like a safe bet. A recent leaker named Kepler L2 released a report on NeoGAF in which they claim the PS6 could be released sometime in 2027, which is a bit earlier than most expected. They deduced this date based on their report knowledge of the PS6 chipset being nearly complete and ready for fabrication. Based on previous trends, the timeline between a chipset being finalized and entering fabrication and the console launching is about 2 years, leading to the 2027 estimate. As far as what chips the PS6 will reportedly be running on, Kepler L2 suggests that it will be a Zen 6 running on N2 architecture and an early fork of GFX 13 aka AMD RDNA 5. On the other hand, former PlayStation executive Yoshida spoke at VentureBeat about plausible PS6 timing when talking about the average console generation life cycle, putting the end of the PS5 generation around 2027, which is what the previous leaker suggested. Yoshida replied, "I have no information about the next PlayStation, but it feels a bit too early for me to say. The PS5 generation was slowed down because of the manufacturing issues. If the next PlayStation comes out in 2028, that feels right to me." So it should be noted that Yoshida does not have any insider knowledge about when the PS6 will actually be released. So that said, he had been working at PlayStation for over 30 years, previously acting as president of SIE, and would therefore have a good idea of what timescales the company works in and what the vision for a console launch would look like. So on August 1, 2025, Moore's Law instead dropped another bomb of a leak. This time they claim to have uncovered an AMD presentation from 2023 with possible specs for both the PS6 and PlayStation handheld. So the high-level information here is that the PS6 would have specs on par with an RTX 4080, be 3x faster than the base PS5, have enhanced ray tracing, and be able to output games at either 4K 120 FPS or 8K 60 60 FPS. The real kicker though is MLID predicts Sony is keeping its specs conservative in an effort to launch the PS6 at just $500. Again, these are just leaks, but even if it's true, are from 2023 and plans could easily change in 2 or more years. So given everything we have seen so far, that 2028 sounds like the safer bet for a PS6 launch. So let me know in the comments below guys, what are your thoughts and opinions about the PS6 launch date. I love to hear from you, and hit the like button and subscribe our channel for more notifications. The bell icon, bro, that's the most important thing of all time. Do click it because you guys deserve the notifications sooner. And thank you for all the love and support you guys have given us. Take care and see you all in our next video. This is Capix Gaming, and goodbye.